Man, it is getting hot. It's getting real hot. And I really don't like it. What's going on here?
Get the ute running.
Oh no. That's gonna sound terrible.
Yeah, I know, that's what we're gonna fix. I'm gonna try and fix that today.
Righto guys, it's been a little while. It's been a hot minute, but we're gonna be doing a little bit more work to Big Yellow, the shop ute. Not quite finishing it off at this stage. Still gonna be a little while, but do have some things to do to it. So why have you got to ride another ECU?
Don't try and make me mad in the morning.
No, it's Monday morning, I suppose.
Because all of my good ECUs ended up in a customer's car so that he could get home.
So I actually managed to buy like just a heap of just LS stuff from our boy there at Broomstick Factory. For anyone that follows him on Instagram, go and check it out. But he had an LS1 in his Zafiro, which exploded at QR. He decided he wasn't going to put an LS1 back in it. And I managed to get off him quite a bit of good stuff for really cheap, which was awesome. Part of it being the ECU out of it, which is good because we always need more ECUs because these things, they're really temperamental to voltage changes and things like that. And if cars aren't wired correctly or have wiring issues, it'll brick the ECU, which we do often find, which usually often means that customers' cars, when they brick ECUs, end up with our personal ECUs in them so that they can take the car while we have to try and get them sorted out. So that's what happened with this thing. We had to flog the ECU out of it for a customer car the other week. So it was good that I snagged that ECU off Broomstick Factory, and that's what we're doing to get this thing running. Anyway, we'll get it running and getting into the shed, and then I'll go through the problems that we've had with it and exactly what we plan on doing with it at the moment. Good shirt to be wearing for the shop ute build.
Good, isn't it?
Spotify. Yeah, man, it sounds really. It sounds.
Yeah, give it a rev really.
So you can see there the heat shield that Rex has made up for the fuel tank to protect it from the wastegate and the hot side pipe and stuff there. You can see a lot of good stuff with this tray back off now, which you missed last time. But we'll see how this turbo goes. I don't know if you have seen, but you know, Garrett's now released their new G40 range, which is a really, really favourable size. So we're hoping that Polestar will follow suit and bring out a G40 in the near future as well. And at that point, we may look at upgrading our China T66 here to a Polestar G40. I think they're going to make a G40 1150 or something like that, which would just be such a good size for this setup being remount and for what we want to do with it. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see how this turbo goes, but it's exciting stuff. So that's pretty much going to be where the exhaust is going to go now. From where that flange is, we're going to run it back down and obviously have a muffler, and I think we talked about it in the last episode. And hopefully this will fix just how absolutely terrible this thing sounds. Fingers crossed. Alright guys, so one of the big issues that we have found with this thing since getting it running is that the heads don't seal. Now, I went fairly in depth into this issue when I filmed the Christmas special episode, if you care to go and watch that, but basically you cannot run the 853 casting heads with the GM MLS head gaskets because they leak water. So if you want to know a lot more about exactly why that is, go and watch that video. I went very in depth about it. But in order to sort that out, obviously the easiest way at the moment is just to swap them out for a set of 241s. I did manage to get a whole heap of cheap LS parts from, like I said at the start of this episode, Broomstick Factory. Part of that was the heads off that engine that went exploding and chainsawing itself. The heads actually came out pretty unscathed, which is awesome. And they already had dual valve springs fitted to them, Not only that, but they also came with ARP head bolts. So, you know, when we built this thing, it was only going to be 4L60. We built it completely out of spare parts. We used second-hand torque to yield head bolts, and we used second-hand single conical valve springs, because we figured it's not going to be huge power. We can't make much power through a 4L60 anyway, so those were going to be okay. However, now that it's gone turbo 400, we need to swap the heads anyway. These come up for a good price, a good package deal. They've already got double valve springs. They came with ARP head bolts, and there's no reason once we swap these out that we can't go, you know, 500 horsepower plus in this thing. So that's freaking awesome. They were too good to pass up, so I snapped them up. So that's going to be the easiest thing to do at the moment, is just to straight swap these over with the ARP bolts, which is sick. And then we're going to try and modify those 853s to try and use them on another one of our cars, and modify them to work with the MLS head gaskets. But that is an issue. So we'd read about it a lot. We'd always heard that you can't run the 853 heads with the MLS head gaskets because they don't seal. And just looking at the design of the heads and the gasket, you're like, that's BS. How can they not seal? There's heaps of meat there, but they don't. And it's just because of one little casting difference. And yeah, go and watch that other video if you want to know a lot more in depth about exactly why that is. But that's the main thing that's going to be happening at the moment, is swapping the heads over so that we can recoup or recollect these 853s so that we can get them modified to what we want to do to try and use them on another car early in the new year. But yeah, that was freaking awesome to snap them up. So, but anyway, apart from that, Rex wants to try and continue on with the intake tract a bit. I'm actually heading off today. I'm going to go have a little break with the family for Christmas. But while I'm gone, Rex is going to continue doing a bit of intake work and stuff on this thing. So if you watch that Christmas video that I did, you'll actually also see that I went sort of into detail about this thing sort of being delayed. As you guys have seen, it's actually dragged on quite a bit. This was never the intention. This was actually meant to be quite a quick build. That was what we set out to do at the beginning. But as anyone who's built cars understands, things snowball. And that's been a big issue with this thing. At the moment, the biggest thing holding us back is the rear end. Now that we're planning on making actually a bit of power, we're sort of trying to figure out what we're going to do with the diff side of things and how we're going to get that all to work. We have made a decision, I think I talked about in the last episode, but it's not going to be cheap. And at the moment, we have other priorities, so we're just ticking along with what we can do at the moment, but we're not in a huge hurry to finish this. It will get finished this year, but it's no longer going to be the really, really quick build that we intended for it to be. But it is what it is. All in the fullness of time. And at the end of it, it'll all be worth it, because it'll be a sick shot yet. Stack bins.
Alright guys, Max is gone. He left for a little while ago now. I've got this exhaust sorted out. We've gone under the chassis. It actually doesn't look too bad. And even from behind, it'll still look alright. Once the train and everything's on. But let's start it up and see what she sounds like. Oh yeah. If it wasn't for that squeaky idler, that'd sound awesome. That sounds heaps nicer. It's got a nice and throaty note to it. I like it. That sounds so much nicer now. Woo! Right, I'm happy. Okay guys, it's been a hot minute. I have done quite a bit of work on the ute. I've sort of been struggling to keep everyone updated. I was trying to just get stuck into it, and things have been a bit hectic at the moment. It's being done in fits and bursts, so I'll give you a bit of a quick update. So I've obviously got the heads off, and you can see that the decks are actually still pretty clean. They didn't take much cleaning up. Important is that I've blown out all of these holes. As Max has mentioned before, they are blind and they get full of oil and water when you take the heads off. Super important to clear them out, because if you get any fluid in the bottom of them, fluids obviously don't compress when you do the head bolts up, you can crack the block. It causes a lot of damage. So this is all stuff laid out ready to go. So as Max would have mentioned, these heads came off an engine that obviously had a little bit of a mishap and I'm always a bit concerned whenever we get heads like that, because they can obviously be damaged. So as you can see, looking at it, like these ones all look all right, those three look all right, and this one here is obviously the one that copped some damage. So it's not always obvious what they've done, and as you can see, what I've done here just to check all of the valves is just filled the ports with water. And this is why, when you look at this exhaust valve, that one's pretty obvious. You can see, well, maybe not on camera, but by eye you can clearly see that there is a gap there. That valve is bent and is not sitting properly. Less obvious is this. So that intake valve looks to the eye like it's perfectly sealed like all the others, but as you can see, you know, if I can try and do this with only one hand, as soon as you put water in that, it just pours out of it. So that valve is also damaged, potentially that seat, looking at how that valve is sitting. So these heads might need a bit of repair work. I'll just put the camera down. Of more concern to me, actually, at this point, if I take that out, is as soon as I started looking at these exhausts. And as you can see, and this head's the same, if I was to flip that over, that one has been leaking as well. So they're having some fun exhaust issues. As soon as you look at it, you can see why. Let's see inside if this thing will just sort of focus itself. Damaged thread. Damaged thread. Damaged thread, damaged thread, damaged thread. And this head is exactly the same. So, well, nearly all of these exhaust bolts have been basically horribly damaged, and I'm looking at probably going to have to helicoil all of them. Unfortunately, the only helicoil kit that we have at the moment is to suit M6, and these exhaust bolts are M8. So I'm just trying to work out what to do at this point. I'm thinking I'll have a look at what we have in our back room and potentially just swap these springs over to another set of 241s we have, and that way I can get the ute fairly sorted, and these heads will have to just wait until we have time to basically repair them properly. So I'll have a look at that, and then once I get some more stuff sorted out, I will show you a bit more progress that we've made on the ute. Right guys, so it's yet another day. Yesterday was New Year's Day. The weather here was absolutely terrible, just pouring rain all day. I didn't even bother to come over to the shed. Oh boy, it's moving some stuff around. So these are our new heads that we're going to be using. So I've fished them out of the back room. I've already given them a bit of a clean up, and the seats and valves and everything are pretty good. So I don't know if you can see that. I've just given them a quick lap dance with this little apparatus, and about to give them their final wash. I don't know if you can see it, there's a bit of stuff just in the water jackets there. So I'll give them their final clean up, reassemble them, and they're ready to go on the ute. Okay, head's cleaned up. This one I've already got assembled. There is a little bit of surface rust on a lot of these springs are unfortunately left out in the weather on those other heads when that engine blew up, but they'll be alright. It is what it is. All ready to go. Just going to finish putting this one together. See, I've done just a bit of a clean up in all the ports there. And these valve stem seals are actually second-hand ones that I'm going to use for this, because they originally went onto a customer's heads, and for reasons that I can't quite remember, might have been an installed height issue, they ended up getting pulled off, and we didn't really want to reuse them on a customer's engine, but I'm happy to reuse them on mine. So get them together and then ready to go on the car. Okay, block has been prepped, wiped down with thinners and cleaned. It is ready to go. Heads are over there. They got the same treatment. Now, these are the head gaskets that came off the car. So I'm going to do what never ever supposed to do, only because it's my car. basically, if we're going to reuse gaskets, these are still pretty good. You can see that most of the glue hasn't actually sort of started to sort itself out yet. The car hasn't been through quite enough heat cycles, but just to be on the safe side, we'll do give it a light coat of Hylamar, and that'll just help stick them down. So I'm going to get stuck into that now. I've just cleaned up all of my new ARP bolts. They're only missing one of our little M8 boys here, but one for each side. So I'm just going to reuse two of the stock ones because I don't see it mattering at all. I'm just going to put them in the middle. So here we go. Ooh. Your boy's back. Way down there though. Right, so I have jumped ahead quite a bit and we are back together now. So I just kind of got into, I just wanted it done, so I didn't really bother to film much. There's not much to mention other than the fact that before I pulled this down, I was chasing a potential issue with cylinder 8. I tracked it down to where it seemed to be not running as well as the others. My first suspicion was the injector, but when I went to pull it apart to do the heads, as soon as I pulled that back lead off, I won't even bother showing you because you won't be able to see it, but when I put it on, must have had a big mud wasp nest in there, and the whole end of the plug was just caked with like hard solidified mud. So it can't be a coincidence surely that cylinder had an issue with the plug lead, and it's the one that was misbehaving. I have swapped the injectors out of 2 and 8 anyway, just to see what happens if the plug lead didn't fix the problem. We're full of water and I'm about to hit the key. Hopefully we don't have any hydro locks or no water leaks or any of that fun stuff. I'll try that one more time because that rail was empty. Right, here we go. Never mind that. Let's have a look at that starter motor. Sounds so much better. And as much as it's meant to be like a fairly stealthy setup, that's about as quiet as I can make it. There is no mistaking that it's definitely can. I can't get around that. It is what it is, but hopefully that's all it sounds like. Alright, good, very good. Horribly alarming bubbles or anything coming out of there, so fingers crossed we're all good. Start off the pod, should be okay. Happy that little job's finally done. See here, I've got the laptop on the scanner. That's our left and right bank trims. You can see they're both hovering sort of around about 0. Could probably have a little bit more fuel in it. They're pretty close to the same. So I'm pretty happy that problem is fixed and that injector's fine. Before I was seeing bank 2 was basically nearly about 10% lean compared to the other bank being spot on. So that's obviously a problem. I'm pretty happy that that's all G now. So there you go, we fixed that problem too. Here he is. Hey, Fleno!
Come to see what's been going on.
Because that sounds much better.
Doesn't it? Woo!
Well, look at this, guys. I'm back halfway through an episode. Hope you've been enjoying your time with Rex. usually most people enjoy when Rex does a bit of vlogging. So we've been back here this morning because we just happened to have a really rare, really good weather day. Rex decided to pull the intake piping off this thing and paint it while we had a chance. We had some good weather. So he's out here just etch priming it at the moment. Then we've got some black industrial enamel to go over it, which should just make it a little bit more discreet. A bit nicer, a bit more hidden, not draw your attention so much. So yeah, we thought we'd get that out of the way today while we got some good weather and we got the chance. So I don't know if you guys remember, but like when I painted the R31 and stuff, and a lot of the engine and stuff we paint, we usually use an industrial enamel because it's super easy to work with, and when it dries it's meant to be super hardy and hard, which is obviously perfect for things like this. But the last lot of industrial enamel that we got, which is what I actually painted the R31 in, was just not very good, and it kept flaking and going bad. It wasn't very good at being a good, reliable, tough paint, which is what it was meant to be. So Dad bought this new tin of new sort of enamel, and we're just reading it, and it reckons it's like 3 to 4 hours between coats, allowed to cure properly for 8 hours or overnight, or what's it say, like 3 days or something?
No, three to 4 days is full cure.
Full cure. 3 to 4 days is full cure. That's insane. That's ridiculous. So obviously that's not going to happen. So we'll see how it goes the way we're doing it. But anyway, lucky we got a bit of time. Only 5 hours to go. Woo! Well, let's see with the grill back on for the first time in a long time. How good does that look? Looking bloody awesome. We're looking alright here. Not too bad, not too bad. We'll see how it holds up, I suppose. It's not been 3 days to cure like the tin bloody says, but chuck it back in, have a look.
I don't know if I should paint this that clamp black or not. See what it looks like on the ground.
Oh yeah, just because it, yeah, see it through there.
You can see it through there, but we'll worry about it when it's down and see how visible it actually is.
Actually looks really good, eh?
Definitely.
Crazy what a lick of paint can do.
It definitely blends in a lot better than the raw.
Yeah, yeah. Sanding from in front, how much better does that look?
Once it's on the ground, you'd barely notice it.
I rate it. Looks good. You can see yesterday afternoon Rex got the heater line sorted as well for the ute, so the tap's all hooked up, all the heater lines are hooked up. That's all actually sorted out, which is freaking cool. What do you reckon after the HQ you're going to chuck a vintage air setup in this thing?
Oh, I've been thinking about it. I've looked at there's not a lot of options.
Yeah.
So it may, yeah.
Unless you can find factory stuff, which is...
Yeah, which I think we've got one setup. Which is, I don't know. I'd like to see.
Too hard.
Yeah, but you got to have AC.
Yeah.
You got to have it.
If you're going to daily, you can't not have AC.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's only a tonner. You can maybe look at just getting one of those under dash ones.
Yeah. Well. Whose fucking idea was this setup?
Nothing to do with me, mate. It's got nothing to do with me. So, no more black heads. They're all raw now. Yeah. Ruined the whole engine bay.
I don't mind it.
Nah, actually looks pretty good. Alright, how good everyone. So this is essentially the vision brought to life. This is what we always talked about. Having the airbox, having the pass-through intake set up, making it look like it is just a fairly bog stock retrofitted LS1 in a H series tonner. Nothing uncommon, nothing unusual, nothing suspicious. And it's exactly what it looks like. Looks freaking awesome. Stoked with that. At this point, with the heater lines and everything hooked up, all of that intake done, the car's running, the wiring's done. You know, at this point, really all that's left to do is the rear end, the diff setup, so that we can pretty much get this tuned and start driving it. There's a little bit of wiring to do inside, but not a lot. And yeah, essentially at this point, it's just a matter of figuring out what way to go with the diff. I did mention in a previous episode that we had decided to stay with the 10 bolt and just get a center built. We're still tossing that idea up, but Basically, we're trying to figure out a way that we can get out of it cheaper. Getting a center built for the tent bolt isn't exactly cheap. And you know, if it was already a 9-inch, we wouldn't worry about it. That wouldn't be a problem. But we don't particularly want to spend that much money, not only on this thing in general, but on a 10 bolt. That is going to be a question mark over it anyway. So we're trying to figure out a way that we can get out of having a fairly strong diff cheaper. So we're looking at options for bogies and stuff like that. We're still looking at that route just for the fact of having a cheaper option, really. You know, it really is the spare parts build. We've lashed out now and put second-hand ARP head bolts in it and stuff. But it really is, you know, the spare parts bits of shop ute. So we're not really too keen on dropping a heap of money on the 10 bolt that's in it for a few reasons. So, but anyway, at this point, it's not exactly a priority. We've got other priorities in the meantime. Hopefully we'll get this thing done. You'll see it again early in the year. Fingers crossed, but again, no promises. It's not really a priority, but that's pretty much it for the big yellow tonner for this episode. Hope you've enjoyed a bit of time with Rex. Most of you love it when Rex vlogs, so I figured that would be good.
There you go.
There you go. That's with the cover on it.
Piece de résistance.
Look at that. So you're looking at that there. Retrofitted LS1. Still got stock headers on it, mate. Nothing suspicious, not even an exhaust. You come back here, and whoa, what do we got here, eh? So, very cool. Cool to see it all actually brought into life, what we were thinking and envisioning the whole time. So, bit of cold start.
Yeah. Most of that noise is that scavenge pump.
Oh, for the turbo.
Yeah. It's so loud. Let me do some of that starter.
Needs a tune up, mate.
Know anyone who can tune it? No one good.
No one working, mate.
No one reputable. No one with any cred.
Yeah, no one with any cred.
So much better.
Oh yeah, like that's actually a very respectable sounding car now.
Well, it's doing that because the cold start wasn't too bad before. I don't know why it seems to be struggling at the moment. Might get it later. Got a bit of lumps back here. That's not ghosted. That's
That's the can that came out of that purple thing.
yeah, the purple thing. So no, it was like
Yeah, the second-hand bars.
low. Can't remember the specs on the top can.
220s.
To low 220s. Yeah, it was a comp can. That's the intercooler system.
Sorted out.
Full of water and bled up. It took me a little bit. There must have been an airlock in the pump, which I don't understand. Everything's should have gravity fed it, but didn't want to do it for some reason. I told you that.
Did you film it?
I don't think so. There, it's just cut a little trapdoor. I need to seal up this hole and just put a breather in it.
Yep.
The angle, that bit of channel,
Yep.
so that this slots back into there
Oh, sick.
and sits there so that you can still
Put stuff down on
put weight on it. All it's going to do is just drill a hole in the center of it as like a finger hole.
Yep.
It's a little bit, but still, you shouldn't have to get at it very often. It just saves taking the tray off.
Yeah. It's about the only thing it gives away is that it's got a screw-in intake air temp sensor.
Yeah, someone would have to, given that half the cars we see come in don't even have them in at all from going mathless conversions, you'd have to sort of know what you were looking at.
Yep. Anyway guys, Rex is going to put that in. Going to take some photos of this thing with the turtle shell back on it, but that's going to be it for this thing. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. As always, thank you very much for watching. We will see you on the next one. Peace out. See you. Bye.